Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video from Fanboys Forever. And today we're traveling just a little bit off the well-beaten path of video reviews to do something of a tutorial. If you're like me, you might have noticed that sometimes the proportions of these figures aren't quite perfect straight out of the box, but fear not, because today I'm going to show you a simple trick to fix that. Before we dive into the tutorial, let's first address the snout spout in the room. He-Man's head sculpt. Throughout the years, Mattel has faced some real challenges in getting He-Man's iconic look just right. From too small heads to disproportionate features to inaccurate sculpts, it's been a journey for collectors to find that perfect rendition of the famous warrior. But fear not, because today we're going to tackle one of these challenges head on with a very simple trick that I think you're going to be quite shocked by. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, because that really does help us out. And of course, be sure to like the video and comment down below with what you think. So with all that out of the way, let's begin. You know, when they first announced the brand new Masterverse He-Man from Masters of the Universe Revolution, I saw it as a chance for them to right the wrongs of their previous animation He-Man release in Masterverse, which had been the original He-Man from Revelation. Although I was very excited to get it at the time, I think it was no secret that there were some real missteps with that figure. And of course, I can't be too harsh, because thinking back to the history of Mattel's starts with these lines, it seems like the first versions of He-Man that they try are never really the cream of the crop, except for the original line. Thinking back to even Masters of the Universe Classics, that He-Man had all kinds of problems, whether it was reversed biceps or way too much paint spray that was on the figure. There were some serious issues with even that original He-Man release. Well, of course, the Revelation figure from Masterverse followed in that same trend with a kind of jaundiced looking body, a chest sculpt that wasn't exactly true to the very bulky He-Man that we would see in the animation, and a very odd head sculpt, almost as if He-Man were about to start laughing about something. It just looked odd with kind of beady eyes. It really wasn't quite accurate to anything that we'd seen of He-Man's head before. Not a horrible figure by any means, but it certainly had its share of issues. Of course, I always knew that if they were going to do another He-Man down the line, that they would really need to address this, and thankfully I thought that they pretty much were going to, until I saw in-hand shots of the new Masterverse He-Man, and then I realized that a very serious problem had occurred during production. You can see that He-Man seems to almost resemble Jay Leno or the Joker, with a chin that is just unbelievably disproportional to the rest of the sculpt. And of course, I think my instant reaction was just disappointment, because I thought, what a shame, because so much else on this figure had been improved. From the chest sculpt to the overall vibe of the head sculpt and colors that they used, really good. But that chin, that distractingly pointy chin, I just couldn't understand what had happened. And then finally, after I was late to the party and got the figure much later than most reviewers, it occurred to me what was going on. I've been in this game for a lot of years, and people who collect action figures, I think, were all but too aware of how plastic can often be warped. He-Man here and Mattel are no exception, as we see all the time new figure releases that constantly have mold release problems. When I say mold release problems, I mean sometimes when these figures are released from the mold, or when the molds themselves are formed at the factory, something happens with kind of a warping of the plastic that can sometimes leave things disproportional. I thought to myself, what can be done? And I decided to go with a trick that I've been using for years. The secret weapon here is hot water. Yeah, that's right. It's that simple. It's no kind of skill needed whatsoever. So buckle up, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do, and anyone can do it. So first off, all you have to do is boil some water. As you can see, I'm just going to pop mine in this little microwave safe container for just maybe a minute or two, which is plenty of time for it to get as boiling as it needs to be, since it's so little water. It's barely any water, maybe half a cup at most. You can see bubbles forming on the top, which lets me know that it's hot enough. So we're gonna plop He-Man's head right in. Of course, fear not about popping the head off, because all Masterverse heads are pretty much designed to pop right off and be interchangeable, so that is not a problem. I kept the head in the water for maybe about a minute, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. I don't think you want to go any further than that, but truthfully, I don't think it would hurt it if you did. Once we take it out of the water, you can immediately see that the head is now very pliable. All of a sudden, the chin and the whole face is just extremely malleable, as you can see by me flexing it so easily with my fingers. If it doesn't do this, then the water wasn't hot enough or you didn't keep it in long enough. Of course, now it's much easier to mold it to your desired shape, but of course you don't want to apply too much pressure because you don't want to deform the figure permanently or something crazy like that. Now you may be thinking, okay, that's well and good while the head is heated up like this, but it's just going to go right back to the old shape. Well, that could be true, but wait, there's one more step to ensure your figure maintains its new shape. Cold water, that's right. After you've reshaped the plastic to your liking, it's really important to lock in that new shape. And I believe that the ice cold water kind of shocks the plastic into thinking it's cooled back down to normal temperature and it has a new primary shape. In this case, the chin has become less pointy. Of course, to make sure that it holds, since I don't want the figure warming up and then it just going right back to the way it was, sometimes I will stick it in the freezer, or sometimes I will take some ice in the same container that I had the hot water in, and I'll just throw some ice in there and kind of let the head chill for a while. Again, you don't need to leave it in this kind of cold for very long, but once the head has been cooling for a few minutes, you can take it out and pat dry it with a towel. And voila! Your Masterverse He-Man figure now has a perfectly reshaped head, and it's locked in to stay that way. So let's take a look at the before and after, as it's pretty shocking once they're side by side. Pretty impressive, right? So next time you're not quite satisfied with maybe how something looks, or maybe there's just something a little off about the sculpt, maybe just one aspect of its proportions, remember this is a really simple trick that you can use to fit it back into the desired shape. And with that, you can see just how effective this brand new head sculpt is. Sure, it may not be 100% perfect, but by golly, if it isn't really close to being so, I mean, it looks just like the animation model. It turns out the only thing that was holding this head sculpt back. Mine has been like this now for days, so no, it does not just instantly snap back to the old way it was. But once you apply that heat, it's interesting that it almost looks like it completely fixed the jawline, almost as if that very warping I was talking about that might have been present at the factory actually occurred to ruin the original vision for the head sculpt, and maybe it was never intended to be like that in the first place. If so, I'm glad to say that it has been restored to its intended shape. But hey, I certainly hope that every one of you tries this trick. It's a dirt simple trick to do, and of course it's your own figure, so you have to make your own decisions about what you think is right for it, but gosh, I mean, look at the results. If I were you, I would be running to this figure right now, getting it in some hot water, reshaping that chin, and locking it in with cold as fast as I could so that you could have that new and improved look and that your figure can be infinitely more usable in your collection. Alright friends, expect a review of this figure to be my next video, but I definitely wanted to share this as its own thing to help you guys out. Of course, the review will reflect this new, slightly customized head, I suppose, because I do feel like it is the original intention of the creators. Also, if you appreciate the tutorial today, then please give the video a like, and of course subscribe to the channel, because these things really do help us out. And with all that being said, God bless you and yours, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.